Hello friends, I am Rishayan. During my many years living in Mexico, I went through some many wonderful experiences. A few bad experiences, but the majority of the experiences were wonderful. And hopefully I'll be able to continue with those experiences. But as I think back on, wow, so many adventures that I've had in Mexico, it's really amazing. I'm very different. You probably will not ever see, well, I wouldn't say ever, but have not seen, do not easily find in YouTube someone such as myself that lives in a foreign country but lives with the people. Doesn't go as a, what they call them, expat, to have a cheaper life or to live someplace where the rent is cheaper or just to get away from the horror of the United States and modern day culture. But yet they live separated. They live apart from the real world. They don't live with the common people. They live with the rich, or they live with their own expat community. Huh? Almost, I would say 95% of the Americans or Canadians or Europeans that have gone to live, for example, in Mexico, don't live with the people and have no friggin' idea what it's like to live with the people. You know? I have always, because I don't come from the riqueza, from the rich or the petty rich. I come from the pobreza, from common people, from the poor. And so my mentality from the time I started living in Mexico was not to escape to escape the U.S. in the way that the poor are treated in the U.S. Maybe yes, but not necessarily to live in luxury in another country that I can't live in luxury in the U.S. No, it was to live in a place where the people are decent, where the people respect me and I respect them, where the majority of people are you might say race, my race of humble people, common people, poor people. These are the people that I've always gotten along with. Why should I live with the rich and the petty rich, which is 99% of the people in most places that you go in the U.S., when they don't think like you. They don't, these are people, godless people, of a different attitude, control of the land, control of everything, wealth. They're not good people, really. They're not people of God. And I found that in living in Mexico, I found people of God. When I say people of God, I don't mean people that go to the Catholic Church, which is a fraud, or that are Christian or Muslim or any religion. No, I'm talking about people that are truly in their daily actions and the way they act and the way they treat you are people of God, people of nature. No? And living with these people had many wonderful experiences. And from the very beginning, the way that they looked at my life was so much different. For example, I camp out, and people say, some people confuse the fact that I camp out, that I live in a tent, to, I guess they compare it to rich people going camping and living in a tent, which to me is an insult. It's an insult to the poor, just like these idiots that wear jeans and shorts that are torn, purposely torn. There's nothing more stupid than that. I've never seen, well, I have seen, but I mean, that is one of the dumbest things in the world, and it's an insult to common people that wear clothing that is torn because they're poor, because it got torn in the countryside and working in the fields, and they can't afford to buy another one. And these asshole little rich American kids go around with these torn jeans. I don't know, I just want to slap the shit out of every one of them, because to me it's an insult. It's an insult to us poor people. When I have a torn, well, not these jeans, but or pants. I have another pair of pants that I use when I do go out, and it's starting to rip because everything is junk. Everything they make is poor quality, and it's starting to rip. Well, I'm gonna have to get another one, because I don't like wearing ripped clothing. It's ripped not because I ripped it on purpose or because it comes ripped. It's ripped because I tore it on a thorn bush or something. I mean, it's you want to have better. I don't want the insects to start biting on my legs because the pants are ripped. It has to look better. So this insult is just, anyways. But so but I camped, I camped not because of a luxury thing, because, oh, let's go camping. Out of necessity, because I don't have any other place to stay, so where the hell are you going to stay? I remember in Matamoros, I lived in Matamoros a while because when I'm not camping, I'm living with friends. And I lived with this man in the city of Matamoros many years ago. And I would talk to him, and he would get a kick out of when somebody else would come visit. He would say, "Oh, look at this gringo! You know, he camps alongside the highway. Isn't that crazy?" You know, because I had told him how the places that I camped. I mean, they think it's crazy, you know, or local, you know, in Mexico. But it's out of necessity. It's not because I enjoy camping along a highway, or that it's so safe when it's absolutely not safe, or comfortable when it's absolutely not comfortable. It's because where else am I going to stay? You know, I mean, I'm poor. I'm not from the upper class or the petty rich or the middle class, you know, which to me are the enemies of the world, the enemies of God. You know, I'm from the common people, right? And the world is, they've stole the land. They've stole the land. Prices are, and today worse than ever before. Didn't used to be so bad years ago. $25 I paid rent when I first started living in Matamoros. I rented a room, 25 bucks a month. 25 bucks a month, and I was, how can I say it, doing odd jobs on Brownsville, Texas, on the American side, getting paid horrid wages to do things, but I accepted it because I was still able to pay my rent at a civilized little room that I had, sharing a bathroom in a house in Matamoros that I was charged $25 a month. In fact, I remember I worked for Brownsville Taxi, it was called at that time. I don't think the company still exists under the same owner. Brownsville Taxi. And they only had like 2 taxis, you know, but they needed to have somebody to answer the phone, a dispatcher. And the guy says, the owner was Mexican from Matamoros. And he said to me, you know, and I'm bilingual, so he said, no, I'll give you a job. He said, but I can only pay you, let me think this right. He said, I can only pay you $6, yeah. I can only pay you $12 for a 12-hour shift, or $1 an hour. It was $6 for 6 hours, or $12. $12 for a 12-hour shift. It came out to $1 an hour. This was, what year was this? This was like, I don't know what year it was. The late 90s. No, it had to be earlier than that. No, early, man, it's so much of a life adventure I can't remember anymore. It wouldn't have been the late 90s. I was in Costa Chica. No, it must have been around 1990. But even so, I mean, I know the minimum wage in the United States at that time, around 1990, was, I think, $5 an hour, $5 something an hour, $5, $6 an hour. It certainly wasn't $1 an hour. But that's all he could afford to pay me, and you know, take it or leave it. And I had to work a 12-hour shift. 12-hour shift for $12. 12-hour shift for $12. Not hard work. All I had to do was sit, boring as hell, sit and wait for the phone to ring. And then I think we had a radio. I think we had radios, a phone to ring, and then dispatch the taxi. And sometimes they'd be talking English, and sometimes they'd talk in Spanish. This was in Brownsville, and clean the bathroom. They had a bathroom for the taxi drivers there in the building that he rented, and I did that. But you know, $12 a day, that was a lot of money for me. I didn't care if it was way below the minimum wage, you know, because it paid my $25 a month rent in Matamoros, and my food, which was inexpensive, very inexpensive at that time on the Mexican side. But that was the abuse that you have to sometimes put up with. But many times throughout Mexico, you know, I love the country, I love the people, and the more I explore, the more I know, and the more I want to. And I want to explore now. I don't know if I can at 70 years old. I know I can't walk like I used to be able to walk, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30 kilometers in a day. I can't do that, you know, but I'm going to try. I probably keel over. That's where I'm going to die. I'll keel over alongside the road. But I still have to camp because things are ridiculous now. Prices in Mexico are, forget it. You know, hotel rooms that used to cost $5 to $10 a night years ago in a cheap hotel, today are $20 to $25 a night. I mean, that's a huge, you know, jump. What's that, like 200, 300% jump or more? So, and things are just very, very expensive. And there's a growing middle class, which is bad. Some people say, oh, that's wonderful. I think it's horrible because it has caused prices to jump through the roof. And there are still poor people like me. I'm not the only one, but many live in little shacks to this day off their little milpa, their little corn crop, their few animals, their chickens and their pigs, and they can't afford to go anywhere, you know. Transportation services in Mexico are now disappearing, in northern Mexico particularly, disappearing. There are now towns in Mexico, like there is all over the U.S., that are not accessible by public transportation because most of the people have abandoned these towns, live in the U.S., and those that stay are either elderly and they don't go anywhere, or they have cars or pickup trucks, or a friend gives them a ride to town when they need to go buy something. So there is no more public transportation. In a lot of fairly good-sized towns of a couple thousand people, the public transportation is no longer exists, and this is a bad thing. This is a bad thing. But anyways, so I'd camp, around. And I remember in one place in the state of Tamaulipas, which is now considered to be a do not travel state of the U.S. because it is totally under control of organized crime. But I mean, what can you do? I mean, the world is horrible. The hundreds of thousands of people that live there, the children, the young people that still live in the state of Tamaulipas, they have to deal with that. Well, if they got to deal with it, I can deal with it. Is it dangerous? Fucking A, it's dangerous. Can they kill me at any time? Of course they can. But the United States is horrible, So I mean, also there's the violence in the U.S. is ridiculous too. And then really, if you compare the statistics of a typical American city and a typical city in Tamaulipas, you'll find that there's more murders in the American city than there is in the typical city in Tamaulipas. They distort the facts. They distort the facts. I think of Ciudad Mante, for example, Tamaulipas, which is a city of I think they have about maybe 200,000 people. I think I'm just guessing from my knowledge, but I would say they have around 200,000 people at least in the city of Ciudad Mante. And there's a city in Pennsylvania close to where I'm at that the actual city population is less than 100,000. But the city close to where I'm at, they're killing people about every 2 days. There's a murder. Every 2 days there's a murder. In Ciudad Mante, yeah, there's narcos, there's cartel, there's violence, but not every 2 days. Maybe they kill somebody maybe once every 2 weeks. That's a huge difference. So anyways, so in that great dangerous state of Tamaulipas in Mexico, years ago I lived in a small village, and I started living there, camping along the river. You have a beautiful river. I love rivers. I love to be close to a river because a river is life, right? Not only is it nature, but it's life. I fished. There was fish that I could eat, a place to wash, a place to bathe, a place for cooking water. I'd use the water of the river and then boil it. You can, perfectly fine to take. It was I mean, there was bacteria and maybe viruses in the river, but it was clean enough that you could use it to cook. I mean, you boil the water and that kills everything. So I used it for cooking and so on. And I got to know the people of the town. Mostly you start by knowing the kids because they go down to the river to fish, with their chivos and borregos, with their goats and sheep, and you get to know the kids, and then from there you get to know the parents. They bring you, it's like they found a stray puppy dog along the river and they bring you to their parents. And the people were really great. They were really, really great, and they would then invite me to stay on their property in the house. And I mean, something that's just never could have, I mean, I wouldn't say it could not occur in the U.S., but it'd be like extremely rare. Here, I mean, imagine if imagine I do camp along rivers in the U.S. and Pennsylvania, and first of all, there's no kids. Kids are not. They don't leave the house until they're 18, I think, or they got that stupid cell phone in their hand. But if somebody, probably an adult, would find me along the river, you think they're going to bring me to their home and befriend me? No, they'll call the cops or they'll shoot you. They'll shoot at you. I've been shot at multiple times in the U.S. Evil people, just evil people. They don't care about you. I mean, in Mexico, the peoples in these villages, like in this town that I'm thinking of in Tamaulipas, they really cared about your life. I mean, and they really cared that, hope you don't get bit by a snake or something bad could happen. Come stay. There's space next to my house. Come stay here. I mean, there are people that really have a heart. It's so important in life. And of course, this was years ago. Today, unfortunately, Mexico has become more and more like the U.S. because of the rising middle class, which makes people evil. Because when the people have money, money does not make you a good person. Money makes you an evil person. It makes you a selfish person. It makes you a person that you change gods from the real God to money. Money becomes your God. So no, it's not a good thing that, many people would disagree with me and say, oh, it's good. Mexico's, has eliminated a lot of the pobreza, the poverty from before, and people are a lot of middle class, but I see it as bad. These people are not friendly. Mexicans used to be friendly. The poorest people were the friendliest. That's why I love the countryside. Every town they talk to you. Every town they talk to you, and people were genuinely concerned in your life. They loved to hear your stories, you know. And they were, and the poorest people would literally give you the shirt off their back. I know you've heard that. Oh, that person will give you the shirt off their back. No, these people will literally give you the shirt off your back. I remember I was in, this was in the state of Nuevo León, and it gets a little cold in northern Mexico in the wintertime. Not as cold as in the U.S., but it's similar to, if you're familiar with South Texas. You know, I mean, there's nortes, they call them, northers that come down, and it can get cold. It can be in the 50s in the daytime with wind, you know, and 40s, even 30s at night in northern Mexico. And this was, I think, during the wintertime in the state of Nuevo León, in a village. I didn't know anybody there. I was just hoboing through the village. And I don't think I had even a sweater at that time, because it can still get warm. One day it can be warm, and the next day you can have a norther come in and get quite cold. And I remember this man, I had no idea who he was. I don't even remember how the conversation started, or I don't remember. I just don't remember that part. But I remember I was in the street, maybe I was sitting down, maybe I was shivering. I don't remember. But this man come and he had a jacket. He took off his jacket and he gave it to me. Somebody I did not know. He just gave me his jacket. It was a young man too. He was like maybe 25, 30 years old. You know, unbelievable. Unbelievable that a human being would, you know, today really unbelievable that you would find a human being with such a kind heart. He just gave me the jacket that he was wearing because he could see that I was cold because of the northern. Unbelievable. And that became the magnet for me, the magnet of Mexico. You know, the magnet of ever wanting to go back. Always wanting to go back, you know. Something that, you know, I've hoboed all across the U.S. and yes, there are good Americans, of course there are, but they're rare. They're rare. And I found that in Mexico, good Mexicans are the majority. The majority. Yeah, there's bad Mexicans that'll cut your head off. I mean, literally. I mean, there are evil people. And now with the high drug use in Mexico that there didn't used to be, they used to always say in Mexico, Mexicans always tell me, they say, nosotros no usamos drogas, no, solamente los vendemos a los gringos. You know, they said, you know, we don't use drugs, we only sell them to the Americans, you know. But they don't say, nobody says that anymore. Nobody. You will not hear that said anywhere in Mexico. And that was very common. Every town I went to, they would say things like that. They only sell drugs, they don't use them. Well, unfortunately, that's no longer the truth. And the result of that is there's some evil people, young people, that will be very violent. And that drugs takes away your consciousness. Marijuana takes away your consciousness. You know, you don't care about anybody or anything. That's why it pisses me off when I see reports in the internet that says, oh, they'll compare which is worse, alcohol or marijuana. Oh, alcohol, it's a lot worse, it's a lot worse. That's bullshit. I mean, every report that I hear about that, I know it's lies, it's bullshit. As a lot of things in the internet are just absolute distortions of reality. You know, I've known many drunks, but they're loving people. You know, they're conscious even when, you know, when they're drunk. It doesn't, alcohol is not good. Being drunk is not good. It ruins your body and it can ruin your brain. But marijuana definitely destroys your brain cells without any doubt. And I have seen this I have a lot of friends that use marijuana on a regular basis and that use alcohol on a regular basis. And there's a distinct difference. Marijuana kills your consciousness. That's the #1 difference I've noticed for long-term use. You don't care about anybody or anything. You might be friendly, but you really don't care. When it comes right down to it, you really don't care about yourself, about your kids, about your neighbors, about your families, about anybody. You just don't care. Life becomes like, I don't know, like a movie. Life becomes a movie. Anyways, so I had a lot of great adventures in Mexico. I found sane people. That's something I like too. I didn't find tattooed people. Try and find somebody today in the U.S. that's not tattooed. You know, I was shocked to see on the thing that one of the, you know, we look at some people look at the Trump administration as a sane, down-to-earth, intelligent leaders of the country, whether you agree with them or don't agree with them. But here I think it's that guy that's the Secretary of Defense, I believe. I can't think of his name offhand. Hegseth or something like that. Here that asshole is tattooed all over his arms. Jesus. God says clearly, We should not paint our bodies. The, the human body is given to us by God. It's the most beautiful thing on earth, and we're going to paint it. We shouldn't even really put earrings or in our nose or every. I mean, it's sickening. It is sickening. It's not good that indigenous peoples from years ago were all painted and stuff. They were ignorant people, and they were godless in that aspect, because not all indigenous groups did that. But we are supposedly a more intelligent, civilized people with greater knowledge that God gives us, and should know that painting your body is just, it's ugly. Does it make a body more attractive? No, ugly. Anyways, well, that was a good thing in Mexico. There people, you know, you could see that they're sane, common people, and then you talk to them, they're not crazy. They don't start talking craziness. I mean, here when I go hoboing around the U.S., sometimes it's afraid. It's rare anybody even talks to you. I mean, Americans don't talk anymore to other Americans. It's just like, you know, it's gone. It's gone. Friendliness, sociability is gone. But when you do, somebody on the street talks to you, they start talking craziness. I mean, after a little while, the conversation just, I don't know, it loops around into locura, you know? I mean, it's like, well, I think I'm going, you know, I think I'm going to keep walking now, you know? I mean, there's something wrong with their brains. Maybe it's drugs, maybe it's not drugs, I don't know, but there's something wrong. Well, I lived in Mexico because I didn't have that. And this is from a long time ago, this isn't just now. This has been happening over many years, the last couple of decades. In Mexico, it just didn't, I just didn't have that problem, you know? And in the little villages, even in the cities, I really didn't, but especially in rural villages, sane, hard-working farmers, you know, hard-working country people, and that's the people that I loved, and that's where I've lived all my life, you know, all my adult life. You know, I now have 35, 40 years living in Mexico, and like I said, soon I'll be going back. Hopefully, I'll find that. Unfortunately, I can't explain it in this video, but I recently explained it in the Spanish language video I made, that I have to look for a new place to live, because the area where for many years that I lived, in the village that I lived and saved money, being a poor person, it takes years to save money just to build a little concrete block house, and I finally did that in 2020, only to see that the village today has been totally taken over by organized crime and delinquency, and the government, of course, our wonderful Mexican government, does absolutely nothing, because they're the same, and I can't live there. There's too much violence. They've killed way too many people, many people, friends of mine, and burnt houses, and